Hello there, and welcome to everyone joining us for today's webinar. I'm Clive Maxfield. Everyone calls me Max. In addition to being a practicing engineer, I also act as a technology consultant, author, speaker, and educator. As the host of webinars here on IoT Central, it is my very great pleasure to introduce an interesting presentation from one of our community partners. So, let's get started.
Hey everyone, this is
everyone.
Moen. Really nice to have you here for the webinar. We're today going to discuss international IoT connectivity and how we can navigate cross-border challenges.
Hi everyone, my name is Giacomo. I work as an account executive here at Onomondo. Been working in the IoT industry actually with you, Moen, for the last 3 years. So really pleasure to be here, guys, and talking about this topic, very hot topic in connectivity and global roaming. So let's dive into it.
Amazing, let's do that. So to go into the agenda for today, basically, first of all, we're going to dive into why is cross-border connectivity an issue? Roaming, primarily, but let's touch upon that as we move further. Second, of course, the evolution of IoT connectivity infrastructure, how we differentiate between the different operators and how it has evolved over time. And then how potentially the industry today is trying to solve cross-border connectivity problems. And then, of course, a Q&A chat session towards the end. Cool. Perfect. So I think, Jaco, if we first go to the first topic, which is why is cross-border connectivity a huge problem in IoT today?
Yes.
Do you have any insights into that topic, and how do you believe that generally becomes an issue?
Yes, Moen. I think that it's a huge topic that a lot of companies really struggle with because no matter, especially if you're looking to scale IoT projects, most of the time you start in a single country, maybe in your own country, but then for the nature of IoT and also smart asset tracking, telematics, and all the IoT that looking at deploying different countries, you're going to at some point run into this problem and how to manage the connectivity in a foreign country that is not your own. So you're going to have different challenges that you need to solve.
Very true.
And mainly, I think how we're going to look at today, we're going to show especially the historical reason why it's an issue, especially from an infrastructure point of view, because all the big telcos, the big MNOs in the world, they offer IoT as a service, but it's more a byproduct for them. Yeah. They never were designed or built for IoT services. So this is why roaming an issue, because they were all the telco were built in a way for your phone. So you go abroad, you roam, true, but you roam how many times? One week per year, 2 weeks per year when you go on holiday on the other side of the world, or maybe you travel a bit more, so you have roaming a bit more, then you're going to understand why it's an issue. But for IoT devices that you don't have an interface and to manage, it will become a big issue. Yeah. So I think that it will be interesting to dive right away, where you can start to explain to our listeners today how why roaming is an issue and how it works today.
Yeah. Thank you, Giacomo. Those were some really, really good points, and I completely agree. I think, as Giacomo mentioned, if we dive straight into this, the traditional setup with roaming that you have is what we call SIMs with steering, or steered SIMs, right? Where you have a priority list of different networks, where you have a PLMN list on the SIMs that prioritize one network over the other, and then the third, and then the fourth, for instance. So how does that look like if we visualize that? So of course you have a device, right? You have a different set of base stations around the device belonging to different networks. So for example, the first network that you see is Vodafone, which has a reliability signal of minus 80 decibels. You have the second network, which is minus 100 decibels, that is T-Mobile. And then you have the third network, which could be O2, taking example from Germany here, which is minus 114 decibels. So what happens with the priority list is that it will prioritize one network over the other. So as you can see on the left, it prioritizes T-Mobile over O2 and then Vodafone. So it will simply reject a certain network and go to a network that is more prioritized in the network list. So we can also show that here in a bit of a different way. So you can visualize here that with a steered setup, you have a different set of coverage map. So the green circles basically highlight the strongest coverage. based around those particular base stations. The yellow ones is relatively decent coverage, and then the red ones basically highlight poor coverage from those particular base stations in that region.
Yes, if you took in those decibel, for example, we did the example, like you always should try to get your operator to struggle to try to get to minus 85 dB on the most stable signal. And then the lower you go, then the more issue you'll have, because maybe you can have a signal that is maybe strong enough to connect, but not to send the packages. So maybe you have the device trying to go back and forth, which in this case would be either the yellow area or the red area. Yes. Because maybe in the red, okay, you're not going to be able to connect, but the yellow, it will be a feeble signal that you may try to connect, and the device will try, but will not be able to. Yes,
correct. That is a very valid point. And I think if we summarize this in this way, the main reasons why we generally see problems with roaming and with cross-border connectivity, that is primarily going down to these issues, the steered SIMs.
And this is something that people don't know most of the time. To be honest, when I speak with the customer and people deploying IoT, like most of the time when we explain steering, I'm amazed about the reaction of people, because I think that there is also a problem of education in the market.
Correct.
And not many people know about this because the operator were never very transparent. So it's really a pity that people deploy with this solution that they don't really understand. So it is important to educate the market about this topic. Yeah.
Very true. And I think sorry.
No, I was just saying that it's important to educate, but also why is important, not just because of education's sake, but if you go on the next slide, we're going to say why is important. Because there is a lot of unwanted effects with this roaming and this steering. Maybe more you want to cover some of them.
Yeah, of course, definitely. So I think as we already touched upon, and I think Giacomo explained it very well too, is that first of all, the problem with a steered SIM is primarily, boiling it down to a very basic level, is poor coverage and unstable connections. Because if you're unable to establish a reliable connection, that has a lot of fallover effects to a lot of different things. You will have a lot of data packet loss. You might be trying to establish a connection with the same network over and over again just because the device can see it, even though it is not really a reliable connection, which, as Giacomo mentioned, is one that is above minus 85 decibels. So I think that is one, the baseline, the major issue that we experience today with steered SIMs.
Which is exactly why you go for roaming, because when you go for, like, when today there's a solution on the market for global roaming, you're exactly trying to solve this issue, poor coverage and stable connection, which should be the base of having a IoT connectivity, a real global IoT connectivity SIM card. Yeah.
Correct, absolutely. And I think going on from that, not only do you have poor coverage, reliability issues, but because the device is in a constant state of trying to connect to an unstable connection, it also has a significant drain on the battery life, because the device is trying to do something that it shouldn't do, basically. So if it is dropping a network, it is trying to connect to the network again, that basically means that it is using battery again and again.
Yes. So then you have also poor performance in terms of battery life, not just on the coverage itself. Yeah. Which all of these will result simply in higher cost of deployment, because it's not efficient. Yeah. It's simply the efficiency that you lack. And this is just the baseline. We're not talking about really new, incredible software innovation. Yeah. But this is just like basic IoT connectivity that should work and should make the device more efficient.
Yes, correct. And I think it is also important to understand that sometimes in the IoT industry, costs are only associated with megabytes, right?
True.
And the cost that you incur for a megabyte. But there's so much of a larger ecosystem around IoT connectivity that you need to consider. So in this case, you can have higher costs in terms of unstable connections. Your devices will go offline. You will have unhappy customers. You will have unsatisfied customers. You may have a bad reputation in the market. So there are a lot of other costs that sometimes we in this industry don't really consider, because we're generally comparing apples with apples when it comes to megabyte pricing with megabyte pricing.
There's a lot of hidden costs. Like if you look at the pie chart on connectivity cost, you're going to have like the SIM cost. Most of the time is going to be less than 10% of your total cost of solution. Then you have the battery component that is, as you can see, directly affected by the connectivity. Then you have the management, all of that. And you have the support tickets that you're going to see also how they affect a lot the connectivity in a few slides. And also the bill of material and all of that from the device point of view. So actually the cost of connectivity normally, just as you said, Moen, very well, it just took an upfront price, but then there is a lot of hidden that you need to know about.
Exactly.
And I think that all of these, like very, very shortly now, we're going to touch upon 2 slides to show why it's like this.
Yes.
Because there is a reason, historical reason why there is this steering issue. And it's not because there is this issue by default, it's for historical reason.
Yes.
So when we talked about, we say here, how does a third generation cellular provider like Onomondo solve the cross-border connectivity?
Yes.
When we mention third generation, what it means third generation. Now, if we move to the next slide, Moen, let's show what it means, this first generation, second generation, third generation. Now, in the IoT connectivity world, in the infrastructure for cellular connectivity, we have 3 generations of providers. Now, the first generation is the MNO, national operator, the one that put down the infrastructure, some big name in the world, T-Mobile, Vodafone, and so on, T-Mobile, AT&T in US, and so on. Now, they are the one that put down the infrastructure in the 80s, in the 60s, even before. They've been for many, many years in the market. And as we said before, they offer IoT connectivity as a byproduct because they did not make money even in IoT. Most of the time, their IoT department is in red. Yeah. This is why they don't invest and innovate on that. Then you have from, I think, around the 2000, we see the MVNOs. The MVNOs with the first example, and then growing very, very much in the second part of between 2010 and 2020. We see a lot of them just coming out and offer service internationally. They are second generation because they offer roaming, so maybe a single SIM with a single APN with multi-provider in different countries. Still based on classical roaming. Yes. So what it means is that, as you can see here, you can have an MVNO reseller or service provider or enhanced service provider, but the base is the same because they can provide a bit more customer care billing and some software application on top, but the core network and the radio access is still managed by the MNO. So correct. This means that when you're doing roaming in a foreign country, you're still relying on the core network of the local operator. Yes. Now, we refer to Onomondo as a third generation because we are the only full MVNO in the world. This is an important statement because we are the only one that developed our own core network and we have deployed globally in more than 185 countries. So now it means the third generation can provide the same type of service level in all the country because we will handle the core network. And we take care of a longer spectrum of activities compared to an MVNO. So this means we have also more control over the service compared to an MVNO.
Yes, those were really valid points, Giacomo. And I think it is also very important that we highlight these differences and educate the market, as you mentioned before, because quite often in the industry you don't really see this information. It is sort of like a black hole in a way that you can just get lost in because there's so many different options, but you don't really know what differentiates stuff in that market.
And why this is important, I think, Moen, now you explain always this very well. Why this is important, which is with what you explain, because if you go forward, you're going to show now, you're going to explain why this no-steering is such a better solution.
Exactly, and that was a very good segue into this topic again. So going back to the initial things that we discussed, the problem with roaming and the steered setup. So if we have a SIM without steering, how does that work for you? So what happens is, from a device perspective, every single network or every single base station that it sees around that device is quite simply at the same level. From a device perspective or from a SIM perspective, it does not prioritize between any network that it sees. It simply connects to the strongest signal that it sees around that device. So from that perspective, you reduce problems with coverage, but problems with reliability, problems with performance, because now we remove that logic away from the SIM and simply allow the device to identify and establish a reliable connection.
Exactly. Think about, for example, when our customer connected cars in Europe. I remember an exact example in Germany, between Germany and France, where in Germany, first of all, the steering will help you in one country because you get the strongest of the, for example, T operator available without the steering in place. But also, when you pass from a country to another, now when you move from France to Germany, or vice versa, having a single core globally with the third generation provider also means that there is no difference in border. The border are basically not a thing in our world, because we see a single word with just different base station. And if you're near the border, when a lot of time happen, especially with moving vehicles and so on, and you will experience a difference. But with the third generation, they will not, because if you're near the border with France, and then Free Mobile or Wags Telecoms is better signal, you're simply going to attach to that.
Yes. That is very well put, and I think something that resonates very well with customers that I talk to every day as well is that if, let's say, you put in a standard roaming SIM into your phone, you always see the roaming partner's name on the top there. But because we are a third generation operator, because we run our own telecommunication core, if you insert our SIM in a phone, for example, the only name that you will see on the top is Onomondo, which sort of goes to show what Giacomo mentioned just now, is that for us, connectivity is without borders. It doesn't matter whether you're in Germany or in France or in Switzerland, wherever it may be. The device simply sees a set of base stations. It does not see different countries. It does not see different operators, for that matter.
True. In terms of heat map, I think the next slides is very nice, because this show what it means with the coverage with one run. So adding steering and all of that.
Correct.
Now, if you look at the next, this is what we mean with low runs. This means that you simply get a more stable connectivity, and on average 10% reduction in battery power, battery consumption, because you're going to connect to the strongest signal, and doesn't matter the name on top of the tower.
Correct.
If you have the better signal, you're going to connect to that.
Exactly. And I think, Giacomo, we also had a very interesting example from South Africa here with the Cozy tracker, where because to basically inform our larger audience here, in South Africa, quite often there's this discrepancy between two of the major networks, which are MTN and Vodacom. And quite a large portion of the country is either covered by one or the other operator with a better coverage. So you can be in one location where Vodacom has really good coverage. If you move to another part of South Africa, Vodacom has really bad coverage and you need to use MTN. And with such a setup, it makes it very easy to enhance your overall coverage compared to what you would get with a standard roaming SIM that prioritizes one.
Exactly. You can have a single SIM that then get the best of the local signal, the local MNOs. And also, the moment you move from a country to another, for example, Cozy Tracker, I remember moving to South Africa to Botswana or Mozambique or Zimbabwe. That time, first of all, roaming is super expensive, maybe a little less expensive than Europe, but like it's very expensive, and then it doesn't work well because you're gonna have all the steering issue that we explained before. I think the next slide also shows on a heat map level. This is a test that we run also with a partner we're going to mention in few slides. We did a global test, and this is from a point of view of or let's say heat map visualization of the RAN tower, how you can increase that coverage. You're going to see also near the border at the bottom, also like in some more rural areas, that without steering, so on the right, you have much better coverage because we simply prioritize that. And this is not you say, okay, most in the big city, there will not be an issue even with normal roaming because maybe, let's say, here in Denmark, Copenhagen, or Aarhus are very well covered. But most of the time, the IoT device will not stay in the main city. They will go in rural places. And there is the point where you really need IoT connectivity to work.
Yes. Those are very valid points. I think if we go further to one of the third points that we mentioned in the agenda here, like things will go wrong, right? These are IoT devices, connectivity technology. We all have the experience that no matter how much you try to future-proof things, there's always the possibility that something will go wrong in the process. And when you have global deployments, you're deploying in different countries, it is very, very important for you to have a very easy way to troubleshoot global deployments. Giacomo, maybe you would like to dive a bit deeper into how potentially a third generation operator like Onomondo can help to provide some insights into this one.
Yes, I can do that, Moen. I think it's important, this one, because you can have issues, but then and there is no perfect world, you said, Moen. There's no perfect solution that fits everyone, but not only you want from your provider that he offers reliable solution, but then give you the tool to fix things when there is an issue. And now, one of the things that the customer love the most and that had them save a lot of money and resources and time is about having the ability with a single core to see all the live connection. This is a live screenshot from our platform where you can see really all the pickup file from the source to the destination, the timestamp, the length of the packet, and you can see the TCP packages you're sending in TCP or UDP. You can download as a pickup file and look at them more details in Wireshark. So this is very important to have because you want an operator that can provide all of this inside live. Otherwise, you're just gonna submit a ticket and then wait for a couple of days for a reply, and then they're gonna provide with a trace that is already old, and you can do nothing about it. So after a week, your support team is frustrated, your customer is frustrated, and you lose, as you said, Moen, well before.
Yeah.
Customer satisfaction, you lose customer market share, and your reputation goes down.
Exactly, precisely.
Yes. So like in I think the words of one of our customers summarized it very well. Chris from Lightbug company in the UK, from his word is saying that from when we start using Onomondo, now that the bugging goes down from days to hours. So I think that the word that summarizes it the best, I believe.
Exactly. I completely agree. I've said it any better, Giacomo.
But amazing. I think don't take our words on that. What also we're gonna provide you today. We're gonna show a bit more example from our customer. Yes. If we go on the next one, Moen, you can maybe mention some of these and what we did with Asian Mobility.
Exactly. So if I sorry for jumping over one slide here. So basically, as we already touched upon, 2 examples of cozy tracker and connected cars based on the steering problems. Another thing with, let's say, as we mentioned here, limitless cross-border connectivity. Maersk, one of the world's largest shipping companies, if not the largest shipping company when it comes to logistics or container tracking. You need a solution that will just work regardless of where your ships or your containers go. And you need to have coverage regardless of where they are at all times. It needs to be reliable, it needs to be stable, it needs to just work. And I think that is also where a solution such as Onomondo's, by being a 3rd generation provider, quite simply just makes it very seamless when you go global. And I think that is also accentuated by, let's say, a case study that was done by one of our partners, Asia Mobility. And you can see some more information here on the slide. Of course, for the sake of time, we will not dive very deeply into this today, but we will leave a link in the chat afterwards, which can give you access to the case study at hand, and you can dive a bit deeper into this. But to briefly summarize, it basically shows how not having a PLMN list or not having a steered SIM performs significantly better than having a steered SIM.
Excellent. And feel free to dive deep, more deep in the data, and you can see all of that. But I think that because we are coming to an end today, we don't have much time left. I think summarizing it, we look at different things today on steering, why roaming and steering is an issue, the historical reason of why is that, how it's going to affect your device, and which operators and specifically which generation operator you need to look at to solve this issue, like Onomondo. Now, the key takeaways from, I think we can say today, as Moen said very well right now, is choose an operator that offer non-steered. In the case of Mars, for example, before, that will give you ability to connect no matter where you are to the strongest signal. Yes. And that's it.
Correct.
Secondly, the network redundancy and selection is key. We didn't touch upon too much that today, Moen. I think that in the question, feel free to ask them in the chat later, but also having the ability to select which network you want to allow for which SIM in which country or which scenario. It's very important because you can then create different packages for different customer, maybe for a premium user or for a basic user. So you can manage all of that.
Yeah. So it's basically primarily customization in how you create your own coverage maps based on cost, based on, as Giacomo mentioned, different offerings that you have towards your customers. So giving customers the flexibility is key when it comes to global deployments.
Exactly. And finally, we looked at how the troubleshooting tools will reduce your overall cost and will increase the customer satisfaction, because you're going to be able to provide faster and better support to your customer. So then you're going to have less frustration on that sense. I think that we covered quite good topic today, Moen.
Yes.
I will leave to you to close the session.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much, Giacomo. Much appreciated. I think it has been a very nice session, and I hope you guys found it very valuable as well. Of course, if you guys have any questions regarding any of the topics that we covered here or anything else that would be associated with this, you are more than welcome to reach out to us in the chat, and we will be sure to respond to those. In the meantime, thank you so much for your time. Wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.